Hi, I'm Liz. Welcome to Creaky Knees Club. This video is going to be a little different than what I normally do. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll notice I do not appear on camera. I am a major introvert, so this is very, very far out of my comfort zone. But I wanted to talk about my journey losing weight using a GLP-1 medication. So anyways, a little bit of history. I've been fighting my weight since I was a kid. So I was on my first dietitian program at the age of 10, my second one at the age of 14, my third dietitian program, I was 24. And in between that, I think I did everything under the sun. So at 17, I did Nutrisystem. I was moderately successful with that. That was my senior year of high school, and my weight fluctuated at the time between 175 and 180. And I was actually able to lose some weight down to 155, which, that was amazing to me after struggling for so long, as a teenager. Yeah, it's hard as a teenager, I had my son when I was 18, and during that pregnancy, I gained almost 100 pounds. It's really hard on a teenager. I think it's hard on anybody, but I've been struggling to lose that weight ever since. I think there's a lot of people who would understand that, that you kind of become desperate and you'll try just about anything, right? So 2019, after struggling all these years, I decided to try once more after seeing some photos of myself over the holidays. So I started keto in January of 2019. Low carb had been moderately successful for me in the past. So let's see. By that point, I had tried, let me find it. I'm using notes because I have perimenopause brain, and if you're struggling with perimenopause, you will probably understand that. Yeah, so some of the programs and diets that I have done over the last 30 some years. The dietitian programs through hospitals, low-fat diet, and I gained weight doing low-fat diets, low carb, slim fast, Optifast, Atkins, juicing, South Beach, and finally 2019 keto. So anyways, I started that January 2019, and it was working. I was having some success with it. I started that at 260 pounds, January 2019. And through to the following January, I lost 40 pounds. That was amazing, to me. And I wasn't hungry. I would throw in fasting every now and then to kind of help if I was stalling or what have you. And, I wasn't hungry doing the fasting either. It's amazing. Your body's amazing. Anyways, my progress stalled when I became the caregiver for my dad. And anybody who has been a caregiver for a loved one, the struggle, and the stress and the things that you do to cope with that stress. by the time of my dad's passing, over the course of that year, I had gained back 20 of the 40 pounds that I had lost. And it looked like I had actually gained the entire 40 pounds back because I had so much inflammation on my body. I mean, it was crazy. I kind of stepped back, let myself grieve. And, I wasn't really trying to do anything. I just wanted to get through the grief, right? I did try to start back with keto. I started back with keto, and I wasn't seeing any success. Even with adding in fasting, it wasn't doing what it had done prior. My body was not responding the same way. I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now, why my body just was not responding at that time. And I got frustrated and kind of threw in the towel. So why did I go ahead and start a GLP-1? Well, I'm getting older. We're all getting older. And, I'm developing arthritis, and I had developed a post-COVID disorder. It wreaks havoc on my life. I had become pre-diabetic. My liver enzymes were elevated, and I was diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You don't want to go down that road. I didn't want to go down the road of fighting diabetes. So I had read about this class of medications. A few years prior, actually. I knew about them for a few years before starting. And I had actually gone to my provider to see if they would prescribe this medication. But my insurance does not cover it unless you have, full-blown diabetes. Like, why they want to wait until you have full-blown diabetes, I have no idea. But, they said they would refer me to bariatric surgery. And over the years, that had been like a frequent recommendation from my providers. We'll send you to the bariatric clinic, Like, it makes no sense to me why you're going to do bariatric surgery, but not cover a medication. That, I can't wrap my head around that. That makes zero sense. So, I know people who've had bariatric surgery, and some of them have had some success, which is fabulous, but some of them have not. And some of them developed other issues because of the bariatric surgery. So again, I didn't want to go down that road. It's not for me. So I decided to search out how to get this medication. If you've done any looking, the branded medications are hella expensive. But in my looking, I found that med spas, some med spas will prescribe compounded GLP-1s. So that's the route that I went. I found somebody local that was recommended, highly recommended, and I made my appointment, and I went and met with the physician's assistant, and we went over my health history. I had taken in my labs that I'd gotten prior, and we went over my lab work, and she determined that my health was good and I was a good candidate to start this medication. So that's what we did. I started on compounded semaglutide in February of 2023. I was at a weight of 250 pounds and a BMI of 42.8, which I'm told is not great. So anyways, I know that's not the full measure of your health, but I started losing weight like almost immediately, slowly, but it was moving. But I also had side effects to deal with on the medication. So not everybody gets these. Every person is different in how they respond to these medications. So my side effects may not have an impact on you. You may have something different. You may have no side effects. There are people in support groups that I interact with who have no side effects. So, it's just everybody's different. But I developed frequent vomiting, near constant nausea, and constipation. Like I struggled so bad. And, the nausea was treated with Zofran, and that worked really pretty well for the nausea. And I also carried with me all the time an OTC called Nausine, and you can get that at like any pharmacy store, your box pharmacy stores, and it works really pretty well. It worked pretty well for me, so I started carrying that with me everywhere. And I also started carrying emesis bags, or barf bags, right? So, and I did that because I never knew when the vomiting was going to strike. Like I did not know, and you don't want that happening in public. You're not always near a bathroom. So my answer to that was to have those bags, with me all the time. By October of 2023, I had to stop. I stopped for a month because the constipation was so bad. And I was doing everything they say, Miralax, drink more water. Well, I drink a ton of water every day. I love water. That's what I drink. And fiber, add more fiber. I was taking magnesium supplements to help. Let's see, flaxseed oil capsules, adding chia seeds into my diet. I was doing these things to help, and I don't know, my body wasn't responding. Nothing was helping. So I had to stop. I had to take a break. And when I did that, I took a break for a month, and I started that month at 211 pounds. And I ended that month at 221 pounds. So, a lot of that was inflammation. Like I could feel it all through my body. I was puffy. I hurt. And, when I finally was feeling better and started the semaglutide, I started the semaglutide again. And over the course of that next month, all of the inflammation dropped off my body. Like my weight dropped back down to 211. I can't believe that, 10 pounds of inflammation on my body. But, at any rate, I ended the year with a 38-pound weight loss total. And that to me, after, a lifetime of struggling and not being able to get past certain points, 20 pounds here, 30 pounds there, and it always came back on. So 38 pounds to me was just, my flabbers were gasted. Like it was amazing. So I continued on the semaglutide, and March to May of 2024, I kept stalling. I would just kind of go back and forth with like the same 1 pound. And then I started gaining, like I was still taking the semaglutide, but I started gaining weight on it. And, it just didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop this. And, I had done more reading, more research, and I decided to go ahead and try tirzepatide. It's a slightly different medication, same, as a GLP1, but it has slightly different, what do they call them? Agonists, or components. I don't know. But I had done a lot of reading and research, and I decided to go with an online telehealth. And, I chose one with a physician. We went over my labs and everything. And in June 2024, I started tirzepatide at a weight of 221 pounds. It was night and day for me as far as side effects. My nausea decreased to almost nothing. The vomiting decreased to almost nothing. The constipation, like less. I still struggle with it, but I'm able to deal with it, manage it better. So I still have stalls, and I'm what they call a slow loser, and I've accepted that. Losing slowly, I feel like it gives my body time to adjust. Losing weight can be hard on your body. And so there will be months where I just gain and lose the same 2 or 3 pounds. And then all of a sudden there'll be like a whoosh, and I've lost 3 or 4 pounds like overnight. And that's just how my body is working, how it's responding to the medication. And I'm okay with that, Some weeks I see no change at all. I might see a half a pound or 1 pound. But again, it's been very slow for me. If you're in any kind of like a weight loss support group, people will talk about how it's not consistent, and that's the same thing on the GLP-1s. It's not consistent weight loss. Now, some people do lose faster. Some people might lose 5-10 pounds a month, but I'm okay with the slow weight loss. Like I said, I feel like it gives my body time to respond. I'm older, so loose skin is a concern, In any of those like support groups, you're going to see a common refrain that weight loss is not linear. It's not going to be consistent the entire time you're working on losing weight. It's going to be ups and downs. And it's a little bit of like a mental game. Like you have to kind of like wrap your head around it and accept it. And that can be hard when you've spent a lifetime struggling with your weight, and just wanting so bad for your body to change. Wanting so bad to be healthier, to feel better. It can be hard to accept that things are not moving as fast as you want them to. But, are GLP-1s an easy out? I'm going to say no. And that's an emphatic no. It's work. You have to do the work. It's simply another tool for you to use. You still have to watch your diet. You still have to move your body. The medication works on more than just your appetite and your digestive system. You'll hear people talk about that. Oh, I'm just not hungry. So anyways, you will see people talking about, the reduction in appetite, the slower digestion of your food, which helps you to feel fuller and satisfied longer. But that's not the only components. And I'm more than happy to do another video where I talk about some of the other things that these medications will work on. How do I move my body? I've not been perfect with this. I've struggled. The last year, I had such crippling fatigue. I was fighting such crippling fatigue. I mean, I had days where I couldn't get out of bed. I had days where I couldn't take a shower. I just was not functioning. And, that for me has improved recently because I started HRT for perimenopause. It's actually improved quite dramatically, So at first I was thinking, well, it was the tirzepatide that's making me fatigued. But, now I really do feel like it was, in fact, the change in my hormones because of the perimenopause. So, yay, perimenopause, you know. With that improving, I am adding in more walking. I've always loved to walk, walk the dog, go for hikes. And, the last year I couldn't do that stuff. So adding in more walking, I added a kettlebell routine. And I recently added some workouts that can be done on the vibration plate. I have a vibration plate and I love it. It's fabulous for my inflammation and joint pain, to be honest. The workouts that I found, I was shocked at how exhausted I am afterwards, how winded I am, and how sore I am. I mean, really. So I'm going to continue with those workouts. That being said, starting on a GLP1 at 250 pounds, my weight as of today was 170 pounds. So that's an 80-pound weight loss, which is freaking amazing. Like, unreal. And, that's less than I weighed in high school, And when I was setting my goal, I couldn't picture myself below 180. Like, when I came into adulthood, that's what I was, 180. So I couldn't picture anything less than that because I haven't been less than that as an adult. And I know it's not just about weight, it's about health. And, I've seen improvement in a number of different ways as far as my health is concerned. But, setting that goal of 180 and surpassing it, it feels unreal to me, I actually saw my specialist today and he's thrilled. Like he was so freaking happy, seeing my progress. And we talked about, what my goal weight had been and how I've surpassed it. And he encouraged me to set a higher goal, keep going, So I think, again, like I have such a hard time kind of wrapping my head around this. I think moving forward, I'm going to set it at 5-pound increments, just because it's so hard for me to picture. It's so hard for me to picture what I'm doing, what I'm accomplishing. It's So my next goal will be 165, and we'll see. I mean, it could take a few months. It could take till the end of the year for me to reach that. And that's okay. He ordered new lab work, so we will see where my labs are, what improvements have been made, anything I need to adjust. Like I said, my liver enzymes for the non-alcoholic fatty liver, improved. So I'm hoping to see even more improvement there and to no longer have that disease. Because I know, it can lead to some serious other health issues. It can lead to cirrhosis of the liver. And I don't want to go down that road. Anyways, Thank you for listening, if you listened. Um, Listening to this introvert ramble. um, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Please leave a comment. I would love to, if you're on a GLP-1, I would love to hear a little bit about what has been successful for you. Like, what have you found that really helps you while you're on this medication? And if you're not on a GLP-1, but you're considering it, I would like to hear about that too. People in the GLP-1 community are usually happy to help, to offer more information, to share what's worked for them. So, I would love it if you share. At any rate, I appreciate you, and bye.